And all right, all right, all right, all right. You can't make this shit up. Your hosts, Joel Hawksley, David Washington. We are Jay in Washington, your political innovators here in Central Florida. All things political marketing and campaigning and consulting. We know how to do it. We know how to win, etc., etc., etc. Give us a call, message us. And speaking of messaging us, if you enjoy our content or if you don't enjoy our content, if you want to comment, we are more than happy to engage with you. We want to have that conversation with you about what's important to you, those kitchen top issues that
Kitchen
matter
table.
the most. Thank you. The kitchen table. See how
you, you,
countertop, kitchen
you have
top.
the countertop. You have the countertop politics, which is it. If you haven't watched countertop politics, you are missing out because it is fantastic.
Thank you.
David does a great job with that. We have today. I thought I had a really good time with the Morning Constitution. An old
Yes.
friend, and Scott Michael Powers.
Scott Powers.
Yeah, he goes by Mike Scott Michael Powers when he writes the novels now,
Oh,
kind of
really?
separating himself kind of from the journalist. So I
Oh,
asked him about that in the conversation. So it was good. It was short. I would have loved to have had a lot of time, but he had just got over COVID, so he didn't want to go in the coughing fit.
oh
But we
no.
have great content. I want you to know David Washington's show, phenomenal, even if he does bust my
You saw
great
that
job.
reaction
Yeah,
video, and
but you know it. But you know it's that's what we stand for. Is there's no if we disagree on something or we agree on something, it doesn't matter. You know, I even reached out to Rich before I even knew you were doing that episode to
yes,
say,
Rich
hey,
Dodges.
look, I got your voter registration. I have your phone number. I have all your information. Let me call you and see if you're interested. Yeah, I think the point was lost on the fact that I was talking about the points were great. It
Right,
was all
right.
the other stuff I was going off the rails for. But this is a great opportunity because this show, David, this show is about voter registration about yeah, voter registration. Like, should
Yes.
it be should it be automatic? Like in Pennsylvania, the 23 other states have done this. Now we're going to have this a national push to have the minute you get your driver's license or something, you basically become a registered voter. So, as your title would say, making voter easy, even easy for Republicans. So
Right.
I love the little jabs that you got, but uh, I think it's horrific. I think it's horrific that you know that we want to register everybody, even those that people that don't want to, so that we can spend millions and millions of extra dollars in mailing and all this other stuff that is going to get thrown away. Like if you look at the percentage of people that aren't even actively involved, and just because you register them automatically, do you think that's going to motivate them? Like, going to get them? They're barely going to their mailbox, David. Take it away. Tell me what you think.
Well, if you know me and as many of my peers in the political space know me, I will love to open up and make it easier for people to vote here in America. I would like to see a national holiday for our federal elections. I would like to see local holidays for our local elections. I would like to see the ability to vote and register on the blockchain. I I believe in our right to vote. I believe that our votes are safe. I believe that America is the shining example, the gold standard of the voting process, of the electoral process. And I'm proud to be able to be an American and have the right to vote and exercise that right to vote as often as legally possible. Making voter registration automatic. It doesn't necessarily mean that that the voting will increase. It doesn't really mean that. However, what it does mean that people are now notified when they go to the DMV or to a similar state office in Pennsylvania that they are registered and that they can participate in their civic duty.
Well, I I think that we should, if we're going to do this, we might as well be Ecuador, who I would say is the sunshiny standard that we should all be, because you can't even get a passport if you don't vote. If you don't vote, you get no rights from the government. That's it.
Wow.
So I mean, let's just go, make it mandatory like Ecuador does. Because you're automatically registering me. So if I don't show up, what rights are you going to take away from me? You're going to take my passport, so I can't travel, my visa. That's strict. That's strict.
Yes.
And I'm
That's
saying, I didn't realize that till my wife went to Ecuador on a trip, and she came back and she said, "Do you realize?" And then I looked at it. I was like, really, no benefits, no welfare, no welfare, no passport, no driving privileges. You lose everything
you
if
don't
you
say
don't vote.
that. Wow. Now that is serious. That
You're
is
talking gold standard.
extreme. That's extreme on the other end. Okay, okay. I like the, I like the, I don't know. That's forced civic engagement. You may not have people who are invested in their own welfare in their own best interest to actually educate themselves on the whole process of voting and who they're voting for and the issues that they're voting for or against. It's a it's a s-
No, no,
story.
I'm playing, I'm pulling a good one on. I mean, it's the truth. Like this is what it just seems like. You want everybody registered, and then all of a sudden now we're going to say, okay, automatically when you get your driver's license, you're registered. Okay, so now that California gives driver's license to illegal aliens, how we prevent them from voting? Like that, we know. Oh, that's right. Democrats don't want them not to vote. They want them to vote because they want all the votes to be everybody to vote, even the Russians.
I can understand that being right, right, or the Russians dictate how our voting behavior should occur. Um, I I think that okay, on a very local level, I think there's a place for all residents, not necessarily citizens, but all residents should participate in the civil act of voting. I really do,
Well, they should, yeah.
because someone who is not here in America as a legal citizen or resident, but is contributing to that community, they should be involved. They should have some right to participate in the electoral process? Should their vote weigh the same as someone who is legally a citizen or resident? That's a different story. However, what I do like to encourage voting, particularly voting by a certain demographic that favors the well-being, let me say this better, that favors policies that are more conducive to healthy families and healthy growth of our community. And I would like to see that families, you know, people who have children, who are caring for children and have a legal relationship to those children, like a mom and a dad, have an extra vote that they can use when they go to vote, whether it's locally or all the way up to the federal level. But they have an extra vote so that our policies tend to favor communities, families, and those type of values that translate to a better public education system, a better health system, policies that favor that larger class of citizens, families, and people who have invested in our future. I like to see that.
So I get two votes. I get two votes to my son's one vote, and my wife gets two votes compared to my daughter's one vote. Or because they're part of the family, do they get the extra vote too? I don't get that.
So let's do you have legal like say up until 18 years of age or 21 years of age?
Well,
Oh,
26 is they have
26.
insurance still.
Exactly. So let's say 26. So like you're um if you have children who are living with you up to the age of 26 and you have a legal responsibility for them, like health insurance, for instance,
Mhm.
then you and your wife should have an extra vote, or the family has one vote, one extra vote, you know? But I like the idea of you and your wife having one extra vote. And
I don't.
perhaps
I don't want my wife to have any extra vote.
I think no woman should have one. No,
Especially
I'm
if she's
just
going to
kidding.
vote against me.
There you go.
No,
So
they say like I don't need to balance my household. I just want the extra. No, so
right.
David, I've never really heard that, but things that we do agree on.
Mhm.
David and I both agree that you know the first Tuesday in every November should be a holiday period. Everybody should have that day off and celebrate the fact of our democratic process in our republic. I agree with that. I think that that public that public facilities should be used and not private facility, but I think that our government buildings should be accessed for
Yes.
uh, for this process. I don't think that setting it up in some church that you're renting is to me that's the government's responsible for voting. The government needs to control the voting in government buildings. I don't know if that's something we agree on, but
I can agree with that. I can
uh,
agree with that.
I agree with the voter, the vote, the person getting the driver's license having to opt in or opt out. So I don't believe it should be automatic, um, like they're doing in Pennsylvania. I think it's you have that option now. Whether or not they're, I mean, it has to be one of those things where for a fact that they have to ask. It has to be a question that they have to ask before they get out of it. Like even though I'm already telling them I'm good with that, they still finish the question when I go to my tax collector's office and I get my driver's license. They ask
Mhm.
that question every time.
Mhm.
I'm a registered voter. Don't worry about it. No, they have to ask me, and they have to ask me if I want to change my registration. So I think stuff like that. But really, we got to protect our vote and our money. This is the problem where I just don't see the government spending more tax dollars wasting, fraud, waste, just waste. Because how many times we still have waste today when people say, I want to have a ballot sent to my home, and they get a ballot sent to their home. They get a pre ballot so they can see what the ballot's going to look like. And all this stuff is being mailed to them, and yet they stay home. They don't, they don't mail it back in. They don't do anything with it. Now think about how big Orlando's vote is going to be in November, and compare it to how much mail will have been sent out and returned, and still you're going to have, oh, you might get 1% more maybe. I don't think you get any more people vote. I just don't think it's something that people get motivated about if they're already dead set against it.
I understand you have a concern about the cost. Again, just like public transit systems, government is not really there to make any profit or anything. Yes, the supervisor of elections office has a budget, and part of that budget is to make sure that notices go out about vote by mail, about
Mhm.
early voting, about election day, and things like that. It's just a cost of democracy. It's just part of the cost of democracy. And is there going to be a lot of waste in those notices? Sure. That's why I will love to see some modernization, moving to the blockchain, for instance, internet voting, things like that. We put people on the moon. We've
Are
sending
you sure about
rovers.
that?
Uh-oh, seriously.
No, I'm not. Listen,
We sent
let's
a
not be.
rover to
I just thought that was
Mars.
a great,
We
great
can do
opportunity.
this.
I think that you're absolutely right. Um, but I also, it's it's tax dollars being spent wisely, and I think transportation is one thing. You can't compare transportation to voting as
Voting's more
equally.
important.
Uh, yeah, but people do. People need public transportation. People don't need Joe Biden. People don't need the Demings. They don't need them. They have to, they will get them.
Right.
They they should be making the choice. I agree,
Right, to
but
fund those projects, to make sure that the funding's adequate enough so that we do have functioning,
you're going
buses
to be
and
spending
so
more dollars in an area. You'll be spending more dollars and wasting more. Wasting the portion of that. That budget that you just talked about goes up. The budget in Orange County is much higher than Seminole County per voter
size.
because you pay for postage, whereas Seminole County, they don't pay for postage. So if you want your, you get your mail-in ballot, you get that mail-in ballot. It says, you know, postage goes here. Yours says postage paid. So that's already budgeted if you're in Orange County. So each county, each municipality has its own rules to how they conduct this. State has a blanket, like now we have a new numbering system, which I'm still struggling with to try to figure out. But yeah, I just, for some reason, it just doesn't make sense to me to force somebody who, a Jehovah Witness, but okay, so if I was a Jehovah Witness and you register me to vote,
Right.
you've just done something that I will never vote. It's not. It's against my religion. It's it's that that's kind of where you go with this, right? Are you going to force somebody
Well,
who
I think there's
this is a
safeguards in place. I don't know specifically what Pennsylvania is going to do, but if I walk into the DMV and I'm renewing my license and my I want to update my voter registration, I'm sure there will be a series of questions that either the computer screen is going to tell me or the person who's taking my information to renew my license is going to tell me. And so I don't think it's just going to be okay, you walk in and beep, buttons press. Okay, you're registered. I
well,
think
it
there's going to
says
be a
you're
conversation.
automatically going to be registered to vote. I'm
But
trying to read
there's
the
an
article
opt-in
again.
There's an opt-in process, correct?
I'm trying to see that. Great. You renew your driver's license. Uh,
While you look that up,
well,
I do
yeah,
want
I'm with you, but yeah, I think I just yeah, just weird that you'd want everybody that has a driver's license to be registered to vote. I just that's like sending everybody it's like sending every single person an absentee ballot. Like that makes no sense to me either.
I like to see it open up. And I do want to talk about Eric, the Electronic Registration Information Center, a nonprofit put together this information center where states across the union volunteer to come together and share information about their voter rolls to help reduce voter fraud, help increase efficiencies within each state's voter voter file system, and also share information amongst the member states to make sure that there are no individuals who are registered in two different states who are able to vote in two different states, which is illegal. And unfortunately, for some of the red states like Florida, they have decided to opt out of this ERIC system, the Electronic Registration Information Center, because of some garbage that was discussed on one of these right wing websites, that Eric was being funded by George Soros, which was not true. But it was like the kiss of death for these red states. Just hearing about it, despite the fact that not being true, states like Florida, Louisiana, Texas, etc., decided to opt out of a program that was cost effective, informative, and a benefit to our society. And it's just mind boggling, even the things that have been in place that Republicans have turned their backs on, conservatives have turned their backs on because
Uh,
some media, a pseudo media site has said, well, this Eric system is backed by George Soros, and it's a ploy to by the leftists to
so
increase voter
so
registration amongst
so
conservative demographics.
here's where you get government is opting into a system that has no safeguards whatsoever. There are no safeguards there. It's privately run. It's not government controlled. Uh, it doesn't see it's private. It's a private
It's ro-
organization,
it's
right?
controlled by the states, member states. They pay for it.
Electronic Registration Information Center Incorporated is not. It's a business. It is a private business.
Of the member states.
It is a private business, though.
Of member
So
states.
so you're saying that private business is now playing with my information from one state to the other. It doesn't matter if George Soros is in it or not, and how accurate is it? It's not. There's no government controls over it. It doesn't tell you if they have a green card. If they have a green card, they can vote. If they don't, different things like that. So I don't. Yeah, Eric doesn't being in it or out of it, it doesn't make any difference. This is like trying to say that, we have we get pulled over and our stuff gets, you know, goes into the database and they know everything about me. It travels to every state. That's different.
I think
That's
you're
the government controlling something
right.
to
This is the same. Eric is the same. I think you're mischaracterizing it. It's it's stop voter fraud. It's help put in
how does this
efficiencies.
how does this stop
It's
voter
been
fraud?
because it's identified people who are registered in different locations and have ended the inefficiencies in individual voter file systems. It's cost effective. It's stopped fraud, and at one point, these same conservative leaders in these conservative states have were just singing its praises, including Florida Governor DeSantis. I mean, not too long ago was saying this is great, and now because of some pseudo media website said erroneously that George Soros is backing this organization, they freak out and they
It's
run
not.
when
It's not. It's not only that. It's only 26 states that are actually involved in this, um, Eric. Anyway, so that means that you know just over half
Mhm.
actually are in this. So 50. So you have 48% of the 48% of the country isn't even involved in it. And is that going to? Are you saying that? Are we saying that all? All 24 of those states are Republican?
um, I think one of the states that left is either Ohio or Pennsylvania. I cannot recall. However, the vast majority of them have been red states: Louisiana, Texas, Florida, so forth and so on. West Virginia.
Well, West Virginia has a Democrat in charge of
Okay.
it.
Like I said, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, but
Yeah.
the vast
But
majority of them have been red states.
what? Why do you? I mean, I don't see Eric as a. So you're saying just because you feel that that's the only reason they opted out was because of the George Soros? I mean, I don't know what the argument was up in Tallahassee. If if it was something that the state legislature did, or was it just the Secretary of State decided to pull out? I mean, I've heard the conspiracy stuff with Eric, and I talked to my supervisor of election. I had no problem with Eric. I don't have a problem with Eric, other
Okay.
than he's a jerk, and he doesn't get along with 24 other states. No, I look. I don't have it's a private business.
Right.
That's my only issue. If it was a government agency, it was a government agency working together. This is just simply you're connecting your driver's license information to a system to the system to validate the driving history. What I mean, the how do you the address. Oh, so they have an address on their driver's license, but they move so they're in New York and they moved to Florida. They're still registered in New York, and then they register to vote in Florida. It's it's New York's responsibility, or is it the individual's responsibility to not be registered in the other state? I mean, so Eric's going to come in there and go, "Yay, I can help you solve this problem."
Well, again, don't you all, as conservatives, believe in smaller government? So these states coming together to create a nonprofit to reduce voter fraud and reduce
Again, I don't see how it reduces voter fraud
inefficiencies.
technically.
It, it has it has, and the
You can't prove that. You can't prove that. You can't prove that it has because it has not. It has no data that I see here that actually proves that it has stopped voter fraud.
okay, all right, all
I'm
right.
just saying. I'm
We could dwell into it a little bit more. I just wanted to reference Eric as another resource in regards to the integrity of our elections and the integrity of the vote.
Well, but you guys don't believe your party doesn't believe in voter ID at the polls. So I don't understand
Why?
how the Eric's going
I
to
mean,
makes any
really, you
difference.
show your ID, your information when you register to vote.
Well,
It
you have
should
to.
be done.
The only way you can be registered in Eric is if you have a driver's license. So if you're homeless and you have no ID, you can't even be part of Eric.
No,
Just
no,
it
no, no.
says right here that to connect it to the yeah, it's connected to the federal and state laws and if you have a duplicate driver's license, it's about the driving system, yeah, mostly. But I'm not an expert in it. I'm not going to try to be in the 10 seconds I have. But yes, Eric. I have no problem with Eric. Like me personally, I have no problem with Eric. But if I go to a Republican event, I'm going to hear all about the evil empire of Eric.
Mercy.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to find that information you were discussing.
interstate movers
About
report,
success.
cross-state movers report, the duplicate report, the deceased report. Yeah, year. Access to voter registration information. Eric provides members with eligible, EDU report. The report identifies comparing voter registration data,
Right,
the
right,
motor vehicle department data, individual who have a driver's license or ID card, but who do not have a voter registration record are included in the EBU report. EBU report, yeah. So it's connected to it's really connected to your driver's license, your IDs, and that's why you have 23 states that you have 26 states that are in it. So you have 23 states that now do automatic registration at the DMV. So I would assume that 3 of them should be using Eric that aren't using it.
all right.
I, I'm not against it or for it, David. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I don't see
Mm.
I
Well,
don't see
with
the redundancy.
so much with so much data out there, whether it's from the postal service, change of address information, driver's license, so forth and so on, there's going to be some inconsistencies, and this agency, this nonprofit, was put together to address those inefficiencies at a low cost, and it worked. But because, again, some pundit on the internet says something, everyone's freaking out, and that's a
Listen,
shame.
that happens on both sides nowadays. You just you never know. We scream that the sky is falling for everything nowadays, both sides.
Right.
And sometimes you got to sit here and take a step back, David, and we
It
look at
worked.
it and go
Eric worked.
wait.
Eric
But
worked.
did it work? But it did it work? Did it work?
What are you
I
looking
don't know
for?
if it worked.
You want
I'm trying to find out if it worked.
you want the Eric to notify the National Guard or the
I
state
don't even
guard
like Eric.
here in
I don't
Florida
even
to
like
go
Eric.
into the
Eric,
villages and start mass arrests?
when I married my wife and I met Eric for the first time, it was like, oh my God, this my brother-in-law is like the quick.
Out of here.
I'm done.
On
I'm
that
just like,
note,
how do you know my brother-in-law's name is Eric? And I'm sorry, David. This is a non-issue. You and I agree so much on this issue. It's hard for me to keep a straight face and go down this road. Um, we literally need to make it a holiday. We literally need to make sure that those that are allowed to vote are voting and that they have the easiest access to the polls as possible. I don't know how much clearer I can say that. And if I lose my Republican card for that, I'm sorry. But
let's put this on the blockchain. Let's make it a national holiday, like you
I'm
said. Let's give an extra vote to mom and dads.
no, I don't want the extra vote. I want one vote per person, and I like the electoral college. If we want to talk about something, there's a topic, but that's
No
federal.
electoral college, no.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate this conversation, but it was really hard for me to keep this up. So
Right.
Eric did work. Uh, there's no stats truly that I could pull for it, but yeah, I George Soros is behind it. You can't beat behind it.
Hey, we're your political innovators here at JNW. This is the J in Washington Network. Please
And we
visit us.
sometimes agree.
Sometimes we do. Please visit us on our socials, on our website. We're on LinkedIn. Hey, I love LinkedIn. It's the place to be. Elon Musk, what happened to Twitter? What happened to X?
Oh, I love X. X is even getting better. Look, we're gonna get rid of the bots now.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Cha-ching,
Yeah,
cha-ching,
but it's
cha-ching.
going to cost us,
Oh, it
Joel.
don't matter. It
Being
doesn't
on
matter. Like
X.
this is it. This is the thing. Everything was free on the internet when it first came out. But try to get yourself a newspaper or any real news, and it's still paid to play. So I don't see any difference with where he's going with it, because all the advertising in the world can't keep a newspaper open or online.
That's true.
That's my final word. But please make sure you comment. David does a great job with this. You know, our social media team is out there waiting for you to call me up and say, Joel, this guy doesn't like you, or this one does like you, and I'm there ready to respond, because David will kick my ass if I don't. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.